weird angle. We're just gonna go with it. Hey guys, I am on my way to my second helicopter lesson. So if you follow me on Instagram, then you will know that I'm currently deciding whether to do my helicopter license or my private pilot license. I don't think I can film anything else. This is a very weird view. Enter. Come on. Here we go. Oh my gosh. How cool is that? I am a pilot. Oh yeah. Man, am I gonna have to spend 20 grand to become a helicopter pilot right now? Probably. So today I wanted to take you on a little bit of a deep dive into the different types of strategy within property, because obviously depending on your current financial situation and depending on where you want to get to, your goals, you're going to need to go about things very differently. For example, someone who wants to make £10,000 a month but is happy to be involved in the day-to-day activities of being a property investor is going to use a completely different strategy to someone who just wants to make £3,000 a month passively every single month, so that they've got their time back, they've got their freedom, they can do what they want when they want. So it's really important that you identify exactly what it is you want and why you're going into this business. Is it because that you want your time back and you want to do what you want when you want? You want to go and travel the world and you want to go and, I don't know, do something that you're passionate about, like learn to go and fly a helicopter? Or do you just want a couple of grand extra each month to put towards a holiday fund or something like that? Everybody's reason why is completely different, and if you don't know your reason why, you're not going to get anywhere in any business. I don't think you're going to get anywhere. If you don't know why you're doing things, when it gets hard and when you're feeling really demotivated and really lethargic, there is absolutely no way that you're going to get off your backside and keep going. So reason why is the number one important thing. A little divergent, but I think it's very important. Thinking of your reason why. Oh, and would you look at that? I've just got another booking for the house. I'm not making that up. That's pretty cool. But let's dive into the different types of strategy within property. So number one is the one that I think everybody knows about, and I think everybody assumes that is the only strategy within property, is buy to let. That is where you very simply buy a house and you rent it out to a tenant. The mortgage payments might be £200 a month. You rent it out for £800 a month. You've got, oh God, testing my maths, £600 of profit there every single month coming in completely passively, and that is buy to let. And where I think the magic lies within buy to let is, say you buy a house for £80,000. In 5 years' time, you remortgage at £150,000, for example. You then use your remortgage to pay off the existing loan, and you pull money out as well. So you essentially end up with a load of free houses as the years go on. That's a very, very simplified version. If you didn't follow that, don't worry, because that wasn't the best, but I'm going to make some videos diving into buy-to-let strategy and why so many people use it to build wealth nowadays. Next is the BRRR, depending on who you are. Some people call it BRRR, some people call it BRRR. And what that stands for is buy, refurbish, refinance, and rent. So what this strategy entails, you look for the most run down, the most disgusting, the property that nobody wants and it's been on the market for 10 years. That's a slight exaggeration, but you get what I mean. Nobody wants this property and this property just won't sell. You secure it for a really great price. You secure it below market value. Say it's worth 100 grand and you buy it for 70 grand or something like that. I'm making up the figures, right? You then refurb this property and you push the value up. There's three different types of things that you can do to push the value up of a property, and I like to think of it as a triple threat. So you've got refurb, so new kitchens, new bathrooms, maybe the whole place needs redecorating, maybe it needs new plumbing, and nobody else wants to do it, so you buy it and you do that. Reconfigure, so that's making a property into a 2-bed to a 3-bed, so obviously that's going to push the value up anyway. And then you could also do a lease extension. So for those of you that don't know about leases, I'm trying to make this a really high level video, but if the lease on a property is running out, that is detrimental to the value of a property. And the thing is, a lot of people can't buy properties where the lease is running out because they can't get the mortgage on the property, because a lot of mortgage providers just don't allow you to buy properties where the lease is run down. You buy it because you're a property investor, you know how to get around these sorts of things. You extend the lease and that pushes the value up. So you've refurbed the property, you've reconfigured the property, and or you've done a lease extension. This is going to dramatically boost the value of the property up. So say the value of the property was 100 grand. You've done this triple threat, right? You've completed this triple threat. It's now worth 150 grand. So say you bought this property for 100 grand cash. You then remortgage at the new value of 150 grand. So you take out a mortgage, 75% loan to value of 150 grand. So the mortgage company give you 112 grand. You only bought the property for 100 grand. So say you spent 10k on the refurb. you only spent 110 grand. So, but they're giving you 112 grand. So you've just made 2 grand for buying a property. So you've not only got a free house, but you've made money from buying a house and you're better off. So now you've got this free house, which you can then rent out and generate a monthly cash flow, and you could use a service accommodation strategy, or you could use a HMO strategy. But not only that, you're going to benefit from the capital appreciation on that property. And this is how people build generational wealth. They use 100 grand and they recycle that cash over and over and over again until they've bought 50 units or something stupid like that with the same cash. It is incredible. The power of leveraging mortgages is absolutely incredible. And a huge part of this strategy is understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt. A lot of people have a lot of negative associations with debt and they just think it's the wrong way to go. Don't take out any sort of debt. If you think that the billionaires on this planet didn't take out any debt, then you need to re-educate people. They did not get rich by not using debt to their advantage. So the next strategy that I want to dive into is one that's super accessible to everyone, and it is a little something called rent to rent, which has actually been my main strategy of choice the past year or so. So rent to rent is when you rent a property, so it could be a flat, it could be an apartment, it could be a house, on a management agreement. It's really important that it's on a management agreement because otherwise it's subletting and that's illegal. So you rent it on a management agreement, which essentially means you agree to pay the landlord a fixed guaranteed rent every single month, regardless of what happens. You take over all the bills, the council tax, the energy, all that good jazz, and you look after the maintenance. So essentially you're managing the property. And in return for that, you have consent from the landlord, written consent, written up in a legal document to put that property on platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com and VRBO and use it as a serviced accommodation unit. Now, the magic of this is if your costs, all costs, the rent, the Wi-Fi, the bills, everything all in is going to be, let's make the numbers easy, so £1,000 a month. If you put that property on Airbnb for £100 a month, and it rents out for 10 nights of the month, you've just covered all your costs. So anything above that is profit, which is why this strategy is so amazing, because a typical rent-to-rent unit makes anything from £500 all the way up to sort of £3,000. My favourite thing about this strategy is it really is a win-win situation for both parties. I can make really good passive income because I can systemize the business. I don't have to be at the properties really. I build a power team, including maintenance guys, cleaners, and they basically run the property for me. And from the landlord's point of view, their property is being completely maintained. They're getting a guaranteed rent every single month. They never have to worry about nightmare tenants again. So yeah, I really love this property and it's super, super easy to get started in this. So that's rent to rent, where you rent a property on a management agreement, and then 2 things you can do with rent to rent. There's one, you can put it on Airbnb and Booking.com. And the second thing you can do is actually rent it out as a HMO. So HMO is a completely different strategy entirely. A HMO is when you rent out a property on a room by room basis. So you can do this as a buy to HMO, so you buy a property and run it as a HMO, or you can do the rent to rent strategy where you rent a strategy off the landlord and then you rent the rooms out room by room. Again, on a management agreement, so it's completely legal. So with the normal buy to let strategy, you've got a mortgage, right? You have this mortgage, maybe your mortgage is £300, you rent it out for £700 a month and you've got a clean £400 profit there. The beauty of HMOs is you're renting this property out room by room. So say you charge £500 per room for that property and you've got 4 rooms, that's £2,000 a month. So instead of making £400, you're making £1,700 with the exact same property, just a different strategy. This is called squeezing your profits out and maximizing your returns on every single property that you own. So that's HMOs. HMOs work really well in university towns. So if you're going to uni currently, you probably live in a HMO. If you're living in a place where you rent one room and your friends are living in the other room, but you're all living in the same property, that's a HMO. Next strategy within property is called a lease option agreement. And think of this as a buy now and pay later agreement. So essentially what happens is, and obviously there are lots of different reasons why the landlord would do this. I'm not going to go into that in this video because this is a very high level view. But if you want to know, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and like this video. This strategy normally works when the landlord is in negative equity. If you don't know what that means they bought the house for 100 grand, for example, but it's now worth 70 grand. So if they were to sell the house, they could only sell it for 70 grand. So they're losing 30 grand there. That's what negative equity is. So they can't sell the house. The house has been on the market for ages and ages and ages. You agree to buy the house from them, but you agree to pay In the future, you agree with the landlord to take over the mortgage payment. So say the mortgage payments are £200 a month because they don't want the stress and they don't want the hassle of the property anymore. You then rent it out for 7 to 10 years. So you rent it out for £500, you're getting a little £300 profit every single month. So you agree to pay in sort of 5 to 7 years time, at which point this property is now worth 120 grand. So you've just bought this property for 100 grand when it's actually worth 120 grand, and you've benefited from the monthly cash flow every single month of renting the property out. You could flip that property right there and then and make a quick 30 grand. You could hold that property even longer and benefit from the capital appreciation for years to come. Obviously, a very bespoke kind of landlord that you need, but once you've got the training, once you know what this is, amazing strategy. And people do amazing things with this strategy. So I've seen people do a lease option agreement on big hotels. So they agree to pay for a hotel, but in 7 years' time. And in the meantime, they use the Airbnb strategy, make a really, really high, quick monthly cash flow every single month, and they pay for the property in 10 years' time, at which point they have saved all of the money from the Airbnb units to buy the property. So they have essentially got a free house, a free hotel. Isn't that insane? I think that's crazy. Mental. Now, the last strategy that I wanted to talk about, but certainly not the least, is the most accessible strategy to everybody having no money, and it is called deal sourcing. Now, deal sourcing is using all of the strategies that we just talked about and finding those deals. So you find a service accommodation unit that works based on the figures, and you find that perfect HMO, you find that perfect BRRR deal, and you sell it, you package it up, you do the due diligence, so you make sure that the figures stack, and you sell it to an investor. Deals can sell anywhere from sort of 2 grand for a basic buy-to-let all the way to 5% if it's a development opportunity, 5% of the purchase price. You can do this in a day. You can literally do this in a day. You can make 3 grand on the spot, just like that, by deal selling. It is incredible. And the even more incredible thing about this is you can do this with no money, absolutely no money. So if you want to set up your own deal sourcing business, you have to pay a bit to get the professional registration. So you need to onboard with the property redress scheme, for example. You need to buy liability insurance and just stuff like that. But you could do what's called co-sourcing, which is where you find another deal sourcer who has already paid to make themselves legal. You agree, if you find a deal, you agree with them that if they sell the deal, you'll split the profit 50-50, and then you both make £1,500. The deal sourcer that was compliant didn't have to do anything. All they did was use the money, and all you did was find the deal without using the money. Incredible. So yeah, obviously all of these strategies, there are so many different creative things that you can do with them. I'm literally just scratching the surface and I have not gone into detail at all. For example, when I first started my rent-to-rent business and I was looking for rent-to-rents, I went to view a property with a landlord. So I was going in there with the intention of me running it as an Airbnb and renting it off him, giving the guaranteed rent. Turns out he'd been thinking of doing it as an Airbnb. So what actually happened was I ended up managing the unit in the sense that I'm not going to give him a monthly rent, but I'm not going to pay any rent. But I'm going to get 15% of the revenue that we generate by operating this apartment as an Airbnb. So I ended up making £300 per apartment in the same apartment block, and I was running 3 apartments. So I was making £900 a month on properties that I put no money into, I didn't own. All I was doing was marketing them on Airbnb and getting back to guests. I just think that is absolutely amazing. And it just goes to show you just got to keep an open mind. You never know what's going to happen in property. You never know who you're going to meet. You're never going to know what opportunity is going to present you. So the only advice I can give you is just get educated, start reading up on all this property stuff, be ready when the opportunity presents itself to you, and be ready to pounce and jump on it and take massive action and go all in. I just think property is the easiest investment and the easiest business to start right now. I truly believe that anyone can do it, but you need to work on your mindset. You need to work on your beliefs, your personal belief system. You need to get educated, you need to get trained, you need to understand the legalities behind it. But after that, I truly believe that anyone can do it. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, please like this video because it really, really helps me out, and subscribe because I'm going to essentially make any video that you want me to make. I'm really keen to share what I've learned in the past year because it is the out from the 9 to 5, and it is, you know, it is the way to freedom. I truly believe that. So yes, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.